Welcome to Synchronicity. We got a good one this week. I like, we're getting back to the old ways of saying we got a good one before I've even recorded it. It could be horrible. It could be a complete crash and burn. I guess the test is if you're hearing this, that means I put it out, which means it wasn't a crash and burn, which good job me. How's everyone doing? Vibes, we're moving into eclipse season, as people know. Oh, scary, ooh, spooky, scary, werewolf bar mitzvah. I mean, eclipse season is a vibe, right? We move out of the friendly skies of Libra into Scorpio later in the month. I'm not going to do a whole astrology thing here. I'm just pointing out what this month is about. There's a lot of transformation. There's a lot of turning over. There's a lot of kind of reflecting on what has been, and letting that kind of turn into what is, right? What may be, what will be. We're all just experiencing it in the now, so it's not like we can escape that in any real way. But, you know, it's going to be a changey type of month. The good news is we'll do one little less astrological thing. Venus in Virgo, it's like, you know, that nice, warm, enjoy yourself, enjoy something, enjoy someone, enjoy someone's, whatever it is that you're doing. It's kind of like that nice little cozy rocket ship up into complete change and transformation into. This feels, I don't know about how you guys are, it's hitting you, but 2024 energy already seems to be seeping in a little bit. 2023 was just such a doozy. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. It was just like absolute. I mean, there's many other ways to describe it. A doozy is probably not the best one, but it's one of the ways to describe it is probably more accurate. It was a good time. No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was. No, it wasn't. That's the type of year that 2023 has been. We do get kind of some more cohesive energy. Anyway, Taurus eclipse, lunar eclipse on the 28th. I said I was done with astrology, but it's what's on my mind. What am I going to do? Shut off the mind? It's not how it works. Yeah, are you accepting every thought as a divine heaven sent thought or test of your faith? That's a fun way to look at your thoughts. How much are you actually directing your consciousness? How much of it is actually positively being observed and directed? Not all of it. We know that. We know that for sure, because if it was all of it, surely we would only align with things that were for our own good, unless somehow maybe we believed we're not entitled to that. That's not possible. There's some reason that's not the way it works. It works for everyone else like that, but not for you. Could that be it? I don't know. Just an idea. I only learned this stuff through experience, by the way. Like you let enough past the goalie, your reality is going to start to change. You are forever reflecting out your inner state of being and knowing. That's what I'm trying to communicate. Now, this is not to lament the fact or go, oh, so bad for me. It's not, that's not what this is meant to evoke, right? I personally went through a very difficult, I'd say 2 years, 2022. I was reviewing website, by the way, totally revamped. Got a new website. I mean, it's the same website. I just updated all the episodes, so they're there. So that's fun. That's a personal thing that's fun for me. But as I was doing that, you could see the diminishment in episodes I put out. And partially was because I was admittedly completely into crypto world. I made so much money. It was hard not to be. I so smart about talking about imagine what you want. Imagine how you feel. You could do it. It's just pay attention to your thoughts. Make sure they're all lovely. Even I was like, oh, fuck money. Are you kidding me? There's money over there. I'm going to focus on that. Fuck all the other shit. I'm going for the money, but not the right relationship for a lot of reasons. For what I found out personally is like, listen, you can have whatever you want. There's no limit. There's no like someone saying, hey, no, you can't have that, and slapping your wrist and saying, no. But is what you want what you need, or what really is truly going to make you feel the way you know you would feel, or the way you know you feel when life is just flowing and it's great. And you click into that naturally because, you're probably kind to yourself on a very deep level because that is the essence of who you are, right? It is that unconditional loving kindness that you emanate to yourself and then out to the world. That's how you perceive this place, by the way. When that love gets fully, completely erased, you pop out of this place. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean the love is gone. It just means your awareness no longer cohesively stitches together this experience that you call life. So anyway, basically, if you let that part of you kind of get lost a little bit or get shaped by external reality, then the mirror world has you by the proverbial balls, right? And it's where it's got you. It's like, okay, now you react to me. Now, I am the captain, right? That's what outside reality says to you, which is like the most convincing thing of all time, right? I don't want to deny that like this place seems super fucking real. But guess what else seems super fucking real? When you're dreaming, does that feel real? Does that feel like a place that isn't real? Maybe there's some part of your awareness that's like, maybe things aren't working the way it's a little weird. Well, there's that awareness in you now here. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, so once we encounter that reality, this is the whole Godardian logic of like your sense of I am, your consciousness is God, is that divine source, is that creative being that creates everything we experience, right? Not just our own individual perspective, but everyone's, all the one, right? So what do we do with that then? That's what the Neville Goddard would call Jesus Christ. You becoming one with the Father. The Father does not necessarily imply gender. I think there's two things that have happened to three, I guess. Probably infinite. A lot of things have happened with gender over the past 10 years, I would say. But really the past, before that, I would have thought like 80 years. Originally, most of the texts that you would read that were presented as religious texts of the world. So we had the big three: Christianity, it's a cool one. Let's do that. Let's do Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, right? The Western dominant religions all center around patriarchal figures. Yes, there are women in all of them, right? They do exist, even if just as a contrast to the other. But that's been typically how it's been presented. Now, we know cultures have evolved, and there's also, part of feminine wisdom is not necessarily like writing down in a book, being like, this is the way to do it. This is the weird parable for how to do it. It's like, let's just pass this stuff along a little. We don't need to make it so fucking obvious. That's just the feminine wisdom type of thing. More of an intuitive sense of how things are also. So when you look at it from that angle, you see that there is this language that's predominantly patriarchal, right? No judgments, totally fine. There's also plenty of examples, of feminine energy in these things playing through. But that initially could turn off a lot of people. It's like, well, you're obviously missing half the pie here, guys. But let's just put that aside and say that's not a hurdle for you. Then now on top of that, we have the whole gender is a spectrum. Sure, I don't disagree with that. Everything's a spectrum. Existence is a spectrum. I have no problem with that. I think if someone wants to be called something, call them that. I don't care. It's not that big of a deal. If someone fucks up and calls you the wrong thing, deal with that, right? But, if it's used aggressively or you perceive it as aggressively, there's probably a way to deal with that situation that also doesn't have to do with shouting your opinion on the internet. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe that is the best way to evoke positive change, is just shout it on the internet because everyone's listening. That's the best thing, right? Everyone. Really not that many people. It's the same way with your thoughts too. These thoughts that you think in your head, especially the kind of negative or difficult ones, those, no one really thinks those. The truth is they don't think them, because they probably don't think of you that much. And if, let's say, you are a celebrity or mass consciousness, yeah, people are thinking about you, but like very few are like really spending a lot of time thinking about you. It's like if you come up in conversation or, they saw something you were in or they listened to something you did. Yes, there will be people who are like, oh my gosh, this person's psychology and spirit are so interesting. I need to find out more about them. I'm curious about that. And that also happens, when you're in love with someone. I'm not denying that these experiences don't exist. What I'm saying is, for most people, even celebrities, like people aren't spending a tremendous time thinking about you. So they're definitely not spending a tremendous time thinking about how bad you are or how you can't do it or how you're not good enough, right? Those thoughts are not reinforced by mass consciousness, right? Now, mass consciousness also is relatively docile, right? For the most part, this is not to say individual consciousness, but mass consciousness, the stories that are woven into the world, the political tales and narratives, the entertainment, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift's. I'm not even saying that pejoratively. I love it if the Swifties want to come explore why football is so great. Is it a little weird that Travis Kelce is doing the vaccine commercials? Those are fucking bizarre. Regardless of what you think about vaccines, right? Their efficacy or not. I mean, the commercials are bizarre. Two at once. What the fuck? Are we really doing this now? It's an every year fucking thing. That's how seamless it is. Are people like not watching this? I know it's like past the point. It's like, anyway, I like Travis Kelce. He's a really good football player. I like Taylor Swift. She's a really good musician. I admittedly am not abundantly familiar with her back catalog. You can send me songs. Noah@syncpodcast.com if I should be absolutely checking out Taylor Swift songs. I've heard a bunch of them. She's Taylor fucking Swift. And it's great that her tour is kicking ass. That's great. I love it. I like football. The Dolphins are 3-1. They lost to the Bills. That was obvious. I bet against them. People are like, why you bet against them? It's obvious. You put up 70 points against a shitty team. You think you're going to go into another team in your division's home stadium, and they're not going to try to kick the living shit out of you. And that's exactly what happened. Teron Armstead, our left tackle, got hurt. I could honestly, if I wanted to, do a completely separate podcast of just Dolphins and NFL breakdown stuff. Like, I've been paying attention to this for like 30 years. I definitely know what's going on. Anyway, it was obvious. You're going to lose. They're 3-1. It's fine. They play the Giants. It's not really even a trap game. The Giants are fucking terrible. If we lose to the Giants, I'll reassess the season. But it's just not... It's not really within the realm of possibility. Tua is great. People forget. He finally got sacked. His head's fine, guys. It's a fluke, weird incident because Dolphins fans are accustomed to not having nice things. We have too many nice things now. It's okay. Once in a while, you can lose a left tackle. All right, if I haven't lost you at this point, I'm just letting you know, much in the way that intrusive thoughts of Dolphins can come into your mind. Nice segue. You also have to just be aware of intrusive thoughts coming into your awareness, right? Because ultimately what you're doing, this doesn't turn off, right? I've said this a million times. I just try to emphasize this. It's not like you're not doing the thing. You're doing the thing. You're creating reality. Are you here? Are you listening to this? Or have you lived however many years of your life? You're doing it. You're creating it. It's true. Okay? If that's the truth, then whatever you have a subjective thought, right? A thought fused with a subjective state, a belief, that is to say, right? Especially with feeling. So like, oh, I believe that. It doesn't even have to be the strongest of feeling, just with feeling, being like, oh yeah, it's true. That, whatever thought that is merged with will be played out. Now, I don't want to make this sound like some scary, horrible thing, like you think the wrong thought and you're doomed and to condemn to experience it. No, you can obviously change this. This is like an energy, like, think of it as kind of like these cords or tethered, like you shoot these tethered energies, things from your body out, right? And those pick a version, oh, you could call this timeline stuff if you want. It picks a version of reality that you have selected and be like, I'm going to experience that. That's the one I'm going on that ride, right? This is happening infinite amount of times in between every second. This isn't like, you're picking one broad thing and, oh, here it comes, horky dorky dude. No, like this is always happening. However, your intensity and belief persistence and faith in that state determines the time it takes to appear, the length and longevity of it potentially being this entire life experience. It implies all the things related to time, reality, experience, depth of feeling. That's like the connection, right? So it's important, critically important, truthfully, to feel these things and like recognize the thoughts that you're thinking. That's the first step. I think one thing I may have missed when I first started talking about this, because I had naturally been doing those things when I came to these realizations. And really, if this podcast is nothing else, it's just me becoming aware of things, speaking about them as though I know everything, and then be like, wait a second, let me review, explain what I actually learned, and here's another thing. And I think that's what I think a lot of people relate to it, because that's how we kind of run our lives. Like, we always think like we figured out the thing, right? Like, oh, now I know what's going on. Now I know how it is. Oh, I thought life was good, but now I see it's bad. And I just want to, I'm sorry to say, for anyone who thought that I would lose, my positive outlook, or just kind of knowing that this place is a place of love. And yes, things happen that aren't on this feeling of like, oh, yay, in this world. But does that mean that somehow you have abandoned or failed or were wrong about those things? No, I've never come to that conclusion. It's why I am the way that I am. So what I realized is that what I may have missed originally is you do have to be in a place where you're already kind of believing that your life is good, that like a good thing is happening with your life. Like, it is not this downward spiral of suffering and doom, or maybe just average, bland, nothing happening, can't do it, or this is my life, boring. Whatever state that is, that's really not conducive to imaginal work. It's pretty much, it's not impossible. It's definitely not impossible, but it's difficult. So if you find yourself in, that's why so many of the contemplative sciences like Buddhism and the Eastern philosophies and religions are focused on the mind. That's why they want you to meditate 1,000,000 times a day, because you'll ultimately realize, like, listen, if you can slow down or be aware of how many thoughts are coming into your mind, perhaps you'll have the ability to direct them a little bit more clearly. And, there are schools of thought that say, listen, if you penetrate deep enough into the layers of desire, you'll see, well, there's no substance to it inherently. So why should you believe that there's any good to become from desire? And that's where I think things get a little bit tricky, because I definitely do not believe that desire is somehow this negative force or kind of vacuous force that you're pouring energy into ultimately to realize that it never meant anything. Here's the truth. You'll probably realize it never meant anything and it meant everything at the same time. So you don't have to worry about that whole experience of being like, oh shit, it didn't mean anything, which is, I think, a big fear of people when it comes to mortality, because like, how serious does your life seem? How important is your life? It's so important, right? Like, there's so many things that have happened, like, oh, the relationships you've had. Do you have children? The thought of having children, knowing you're going to do your own thing. Like, it's such a cool life. You get to eat. You get to fuck. You get to go to the bathroom, which is a weird part of it that I question every time why that needs to be a thing. I guess entropy, tropy, I get it. All right, there's got to be the stuff, the balancing, sure. But really, shitting is weird. Peeing is also weird. It's all weird stuff. Anyway, I'm just saying your life is really awesome. How could you not take it seriously? How could it not mean anything? Don't worry about that. Those are questions that you can get to and experience, hopefully from a state of peace, equanimity, grace, gratitude, joy. That's what we're trying to appropriate, okay? Those states, let's talk about how to get to there. So if you have not been there recently, or you feel like you've never been there and you're just like, oh man, I've been mean to myself. I kind of know that, but I also maybe feel like it's deserved. Maybe I did this thing or whatever. Whatever, man, whatever it is. I get it. It's fine. You can beat yourself up forever. There's no limit to that. It is also can be infinite is the word I was looking for. So how do you get there? This is what I'm talking about. You have to find some tool, some way. I'm not just going to say some tool. I'm going to give you the tools. Okay. I'm not an asshole, but you need to find something that helps. What I can say for me, these are the effective things. Number one, I find either my own thoughts, right? So either this is journaling in the past or something I've recorded or a piece of art that I've made that gets me back in touch with my ability to even do this, right? If I'm feeling like, fuck, I can't do anything, I got no energy, all the stuff, right? I try to relate to some experience that felt tangibly real. Now, sometimes what happens is that feels so far out of touch with how you feel now, it just makes things worse. You're like, oh, I was doing all those things. I was so good. Look at all this stuff. How could I ever do that? I'm so far away from that now. Don't do that. So if that's not working, drop it. Fuck it. You don't have to do the thing where you connect with your past. Past's not real anyway. I'm just trying to give you some idea that you've done this in the past. That's all you need to remember, okay? Or if you haven't done it ever, then this will also work for you. Then what you need to do is almost like religiously, and I think this is a part of where religion gets things like pretty good, is with like a religious devotion and faith, you repeat kind things to yourself. Now, when I say kind things, you don't have to do these long affirmations and like the Joseph Murphy style, these long spiels of how great you are. Like, can get tedious. I get that. And it also might not just feel completely genuine. If it does, go and do those. Joseph Murphy is amazing. He's got a lot. He's really into the affirmations. It's great. One thing that's really helpful, though, is to take a short phrase as a container for the mystical part of you, right? A short phrase as a container for the mystical aspect of who you are, and have that kind of represent a state or imagined sense of being. You just have to catch that for 1 second. So it's like creating a feeling of peace, joy, harmony for a fraction of a second. This could be something that to you is going to be in the future, the success of something, the thrill of something, but this can be done when you're wide awake. Does it help to do this, in the state akin to sleep, drowsy? Yes, the liminal boundaries between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind are definitely blurred when you're going to sleep or when you put yourself in that meditative, restful state. No one is going to deny that, right? But you don't have to be. You could be waking up in the morning. You could be exercising. Exercising is a great thing that is very conducive to this way of thinking, by the way. That is another way of kind of getting into the like mode of being where this stuff gets a little more receptive, like you accept it easier, is if you are physically moving, right? It doesn't have to be like exercise, lifting weights, running, cycling. It doesn't have to be those things. It can be those things. It could just be walking, moving, very basic stuff. That does seem to be a key component of kind of getting into a receptive state. Why is that? I don't know. It's not the only thing. It's not like the only thing that matters. Like, you will see people who are completely in wonderful physical shape, who exercise regularly, who have A, no idea about this stuff at all, or B, just like, or have the same fucking issues that everyone else has, that everyone will have regardless, but have no way of dealing with it and can maybe even feel just as shitty and bad as anyone else can at any time. It's not just your physical appearance or regimen that determines this. It's just something that develops some level of consistency that helps these things kind of take place. But the short phrase as a container, right? Use that for your peaceful state, your joyous state, right? Use a phrase. Like, the phrase can be thank you. It doesn't have to be a long ass thing. It can be, isn't it wonderful? Of course, the classic, but thank you is the one I use personally. I genuinely allow that to kind of take care of the particulars and just experience a sense of gratitude that can stir up these feelings of kind of expectancy, faith, welcoming. Like, those are the things that invite in this reality, because Otherwise, what are you left with? You're left with two potential kind of determinants of your reality. Number one is your own thoughts, right? Whatever you're thinking, whatever track your mind is on, right? If it's not in a track that is making things more lovely, wonderful, beautiful, abundant, peaceful, and it's not like there's something wrong with that. I mean, I say this very importantly. Yes, will your experience all of the time be all the time amazing? Probably not, but is that even something you're realistically going for? Isn't there value in things when they don't go the way you want? Isn't that a potential like test of your own belief and faith in a lot of ways, which is a wonderful thing to get back in touch with? Does it have to be like that? No, it doesn't have to be, but it is something that seems to be a motivator for a lot of people. So just recognize that like you do have the right and ability to feel amazing and have the things you want and be the person you want to be. That is your God-given right. Your sense of I am, being God there, does allow that to take place, but you have to accept it. You have to have the hand out, right? You have to feel the reality of it, and you have to have like a gratitude and filled kind of pervasive feeling throughout your body, right? And mind and spirit, right? Thank you is a really good one. I personally like that one. Okay. Again, the blueprint. This is the basic blueprint. Yes, this seems to work close to sleep states, meditative states a little bit better. You drop it too when you're done, and then you note your reactions to see if you're actually feeling the thing. Like if you had unlimited abundance, how would it feel if you got hit with an unexpected bill? And I understand the bank account may be saying, you ain't got this. But how does it feel? Are you reacting? You're going, oh, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to think about that. That's going to be bad. Ugh. That's going to hurt. That's going to sting. Well, then you're not really reacting like if you had it, right? If you had it, you would be like, oh, all right, I'll just pay that. It'll be paid in some way. And guess what? It will be paid in some way. I know that sounds to a lot of people like just absolute ridiculousness and kind of not taking things seriously or not, being responsible and not taking accountability. Those don't really have anything to do with it. They're like man-made morality and ethical valuations. Am I saying be a psychopath? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying just, make up your own rules in every aspect of life and be like, I'm going to murder people. That seems like a thing to do. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is your reactions to how things are is a reaction to the external world, right? And this was the second thing I was talking about that you're kind of left with. You're left with this idea of external reality, a mirror world, which is constantly reflecting back your state of consciousness. It is reflecting back what you believe. If you believe this is going to be a shitty experience, if you believe that this is going to be a difficult experience, if you believe that this is just not going to work out, what do you think is going to reflect back to you? Exactly that. And I just want to be clear that when you intellectually begin to understand that, because I do think that's the first step for a lot of people. I think for me, it certainly was. Mine was experientially because I had these weird experiences where like, oh, I'm Jesus Christ. I know that I am. I don't know how all that means anything, and I shouldn't probably say it to everyone, but I'm pretty sure I'm Jesus Christ. Then when I heard the explanation of what Jesus Christ was years later, 10 years later, more than 10 years later almost, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. But that a lot of people need to understand this intellectually. Like, these are the rules. This is how it works. These are the tools. This is literally what's going on. That's the first step to spiritually, well, now then it's emotionally feeling the truth of that and be like, oh, okay. Oh, it really is like that. It's not this made up, weird, navel gazing, positive thinking, power of the positive mind attitude thing. Yeah, there's an effect with that. Now, if that's built on an external God, someone outside of you, some system, some situation, some philosophy, some religion, some substance, any of that, you're going to run into trouble because then you're building a false kind of idol here. And it's not this horrible sin. You're not going to be killed for your sins. It's just like you're going to have to recognize that that's, it's not real. It's not really ultimately what's going on. It's your belief, your subjective belief infused with your feeling that's creating that reality, not someone else. Yes, there are other aspects of the divine. There is a unity consciousness. There are clearly other people in this reality. We have congregated here to rediscover these truths individually when we want on our own time. Okay. So we can share. It's probably just more efficient. It's like a data server. It's like, let's just dump all the people who are doing this thing in this world, in this reality, because they're figuring it out together. It saves space, right? We don't have to use up this other space because, there's an aspect of divine consciousness that's just like a total Virgo and is like, I gotta organize this. I gotta put things in the right space so we could be more efficient in this area. And everyone's else just like, fuck it. Yeah, whatever aspect of divine consciousness, create more space. And then it's like, all right, perfect. We'll put all the people who are doing the same similar type of shit here. So it'll make it a little bit more confusing for them because they won't be the only person in existence and they'll have all these other interrelating areas and how this stuff fits. We'll put them over there because it saves space and it's more efficient and it works better and they seem to like it. And that's probably what we're doing here. But it doesn't have to be like that. It is like your own kind of like believed sense of faith, right? Persistence, loyalty to the unseen world. Love how Neville Goddard puts it there. They're gifts. They're these divine aspects of consciousness that are amazing, right? So ultimately know thyself, right? We know that one's a big one, and believe in yourself. And that formula there, which I reviewed a couple times here, is very, very helpful to remember, just because then you can catch yourself. This is all, by the way, another thing, it's testable. It's not like you take my word for it. You don't take someone's word for it. That's, again, just making a false god. It's not what you want to do. You just know that ultimately, like, oh yeah, I can test this shit. Does it work? Does it not work? When I think this way, what happens? When I think this way, and don't give up after like a day or two. Be persistent. Have some fucking oomph. Have some faith. Have some loyalty to yourself, to the unconditional aspect that is within you. Just another kind of reference on like Jesus Christ and how that works. Like the crucifixion isn't some dude getting nailed to a fucking board. Jesus Christ. What is that? That's crazy talk. It is a personification of being nailed to this reality. Think of it like this. If you cut off different parts of the body, when does your sense of awareness begin to dissipate? If I cut off your arm, no one's getting anyone's arms cut off. But if you cut off your pinky, do you lose consciousness? I don't mean consciousness like do you fall asleep. I mean just your ability to be alive and experience this realm exist. Yes. Cut off your arm, same thing. Cut off your leg, same thing. Cut off your bottom? I don't know. I mean, the parts. Basically, you have two things that keep you alive. You have your heart and you have your mind, okay? Ultimately, your brain is that place in which the realization and awakening takes place. There is a connection between the heart and the mind. There's, two sides of the same coin, if you will, or two sides of three sides, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, when you go to the head, that is where your sense of I am resides. Try to find it right now. Where are you thinking from? Where does it feel like in your awareness you're thinking from? Is it your butt? It's not your butt. I guarantee it's not your butt. It might feel like your dick or your vagina, but it's not. That's not where you're really thinking from. There may be a powerful connection there that is driving that. Who knows? But it's your head. Okay. That's where you are thinking from for most people. If you're thinking from somewhere else, please get in touch. Let me know how that's working out for you. So that is kind of where your sense of I am resides, right? That is the Golgotha, right? Traditionally in the Bible, that's described as the place of where Jesus is buried. That just means skull. That's all it means. It means your skull. That's where it's nestled. And that's where you awake, and that's where you realize this stuff. And that's how else could you? Here. How else would you realize that here? You're going to know it from your feet first? I don't think so. Anyway, that's all Jesus Christ is at the end of the day. It is a state of consciousness of awakening and knowing yourself to be one with the Creator. Not a separate person, you as an aspect of the divine, being divine, your sense of I am That's what it is. We got it? So then when you know that, it's like, okay, I better kind of like be a little bit aware of what I'm thinking, a little bit aware of how this stuff is, coming from my consciousness and reflecting back into this world and then what I'm experiencing. So that's it. There's nothing else. Go Dolphins. Like I said, they're gonna do good. Oh, there is other stuff. How could I forget? So here's the deal. I have changed the readings up a little bit. I don't know how much I'm going to do them on Instagram anymore. I've found recently what I advertise as 15-minute readings inevitably turn into like 20, 25 minutes. I don't feel like that's probably enough time to get into the type of stuff that I'm trying to get into with people these days. So I've moved them to 45 minutes. They are up on the website. They're on the link trees, all the bios and all that stuff. But this is for people, by the way, who are like, this isn't like a reading I'm going to tell you, well, this is going to happen in your life. This is where you're going to be going. That's not what it is. This is for people who are genuinely interested in like shifting their energy. And sometimes it does help to have another person kind of witness what's going on, imagine on their behalf, kind of give them some certain specified tools that are, helpful for them and their life, the way they're perceiving it. That's what it's for. There's limited spots. I'm not going to do a ton of these a month, only on some days. And you can find out more information if you want to book it. You can, like I said, the links are on all the places, Instagram, everywhere you could find links. syncpodcast.com. There's a pop-up there. You can click the readings tab, whatever it is. But this is really for people. It's not like a reading so much as it is like a designed way to kind of shift your life into what you want it to be. And like, it's a Zoom meeting. I've done these with a lot of people. It's similar to what I do during the Christ consciousness readings, which people know about, which are usually December, but I'm kind of opening this up for everyone just to see how it goes. So if you want to do that, syncpodcast.com, all the links everywhere. That's going on. Other than that, things are good. I've been making a lot of music, been getting healthy, kind of getting my whole life back together. You are fine. Don't worry about it. Oh, and there's the Patreon. Go sign up for that. We're kicking ass over there. You don't have to believe it. There's fun stuff. So that's it. I love you. Until next. Look, this is basically a weekly again. Doing pretty good. Until next time, I love you. Bye-bye.